Okay, let's start with the next tag, which is one of the most important tag. It's called the forms tag. So let's create an HTML file, forms.html, and let's press shift and exclamation to generate the boilerplate code. Let's put this as forms example. Let's create a title. So let's learn the forms tag with the help of an example of a student registration page. So student registration form. So let's say the student is registering for some exam. So first thing first, let's type FORM form. So you see it starts suggesting you form, what kind of form get or form post. So we will see what they are. For now, just hit enter form. So as you see, it gives you an attribute called action. And here the action, you can put any URL. It can be a servlet of Java. It can be xyz.php file. It can be any backend code which is going to take the data sent from this form to that backend. So let's create some attributes, so some items of this form. So in the registration form, the first thing is we will ask the student enter its name. So let's say we say student name, and we say input. So we will use another tag called input. As soon as I type input, you see it suggests me a lot of input types. So input type button, input checkbox, input date, date time, email, and the list goes on. The input type file, hidden, image, month, number, password, a lot of things. So let's look at some of them. So let's go with input. By default, if I don't do anything and type enter, it gives me input type text. And let's give it a name. Every input tag has another attribute called name. And name will be like, if with this name, the backend is going to extract the value that the user will input in this input box. So let's give a name. Let's say ST student name. Let's give this kind of name. So this is the name. So student name. If you are curious how it will look like, let's right click and open with live server. So this is how it looks like. So student name, and whatever user adds here, Raman, this value will be available in this backend with this name. That's the importance of this name. So let's create another form field called student age. And as we know, age should be a number. So let's say we type input type number, and here name as, you can give any name, but I like to give a name properly. So it is about student registration. So I give ST, short form of student, and then age. So now if we save and see how it looks, so it gives me student name and student age. And you see here, we get a number incrementer. So I cannot enter any alphabets here, characters here. It only takes number. But if you see, these two are coming in same line. I wanted this in one line and from here another line. Of course, I can use BR tag to break this, but there's a better way to do it. So the better way to do it is using a division tag. And what the division tag does is, let's look at it. So just type div, hit enter. And now I will take this and put inside the division tag. Similarly, I will create another division tag, div, and put the student age inside it. Now look, let's look at it, how it looks. So you see, it looks much better. It is in the two lines now. And the reason it is in two line is because the div tag occupies the whole space until here, end of screen. So the next one is automatically pushed to the next line. So that's the usefulness of putting it into the div tag. So let's create a few more fields. Let's say the student, we also want to check the eligibility of the student. So are you 18 plus, 18 years of 18 years old. So let's say the entrance is only allowed for people who are 18 years and above. So now for this kind of things, we should give a checkbox. Let's put checkbox, type checkbox, and let's give it a name as ST eligibility. Let's look at it. See, now it gives a nice checkbox. So student can click and unclick. And it also comes in the next line because I have used a div tag. If you see, these two are looking a bit clumsy. So for now, we can use a BR tag so that it gives a bit of space between the two sections. So this is our student name, age, and now we are also asking the eligibility from the student. Let's also ask the email address. So I'll put it here. So div, and then we say email, input, and then you have another type called email, and we give a name as st_email. Similarly, you can take phone, and phone can be a number type. Let's take the gender. So let's see how we can take the gender. So you saw, if we want to have a multi-selected item, we can use checkbox where you can tick or untick. But if we want to take the gender, so gender can be either one option only selected. So let's see. So we say gender, and here we can say male, then we say input type as radio. There's a input type called radio, and of course we give name st gender and close this input box. So here, if we go now to our screen, we see. So let's go to the screen. So we see a nice round radio button, but now the gender is said and it is always selected as male, but we want more options. So I will copy this paste again, paste again. So let's say I say female and other. So let's save it. So now you see we get female, male, female, and other. And at one point of time, we are only able to select one. And the reason is because we have given the same name ST gender. If I give different name, let's say 1, 2, 3, then we will have problem because it will select all. But this is not the desired functionality. So we only wanted one to be selected. That's the reason you should always, when it's radio button, always give same name. So now we are seeing how we can give the student about choosing his gender. What else? Let's give student an option to choose his date of birth. So let's say date of birth. Sorry. And here we can go with input type as date, you see. And here we can say ST date DOB, date of birth. For now, leave this ID field. And let's see how it looks like. We forgot to give a BR tag here. So let's give a BR here after our age field. Then it gives us a break line after it. So as soon as we add type as input type as date, it gives us a calendar, nice calendar which we can choose. Great. Now let's also say we ask the password from the user. So let's say we give div an input type password. So let's say here we ask the user to enter the password. So because password is a sensitive thing, it should not be visible on the screen. So as soon as you give input type password, you will see something will change on the screen. So here we'll say password. Let's go and see. Again, we forgot a BR tag. So let's give a BR tag. And now as soon as I type, let's say any password, you see it gives me a nice masked password. So we have now taken some of the fields, and let's say now I want to also ask the student to enter a short description about his education. So of course I can give test education description. Of course I can give the student input box, but what if it becomes a bit small? So we have another tag called text area. The text area is a nice tag which basically gives a lot of room, you can say, for writing a big text. So if I say, let's say give it a name as edu description. Let's see how it looks like. So you should see it looks like this. Here we have education area, and it is quite a big box where you can add anything, and you can also, if needed, pull it big, make it bigger, shorter, smaller, whatever. At the bottom you can pull it this way. but now it is looking a bit weird. So I give a BR tag after this. So it takes the text area to the next line. So this is fine. And let's put a BR tag here as well. So the form looks a little bit better. But now I don't want such a big heighted, but I want a little bit uh, wide. So that we can adjust with the help of this rows and column. So the columns is like this, if you want to increase this way, and rows is like this, you want to grow downwards. So I want to increase the column to, let's say, 60, and rows I am fine with, that's a 5. So this is how it looks like. So this looks much better. Now let's give the student an option to select his latest qualification. So how can we do that? So let's say div, let's give a BR after the education history. And in here, we can basically do that by giving a choice in a drop-down fashion. So how we can do that? So we can use a tag called select. In the select tag, we can, of course, give, let's give the name of first here, qualification. Let him choose his qualification. And let's say we give it a name for the backend to fetch this data. So we say qualification. So in the backend, in the servlet or the PHP or in the Python, wherever this backend is there, where the form data gets submitted, these are the names with which you can get the respective values in the backend. So now inside our select tag, let's put it this way. We have some child tags called option tags. So we say option, and here we say graduate. And we say yes, graduate. If you want to duplicate this multiple times, I can copy this, press shift, just highlight this line like this with your mouse. Then press shift, alt and down arrow. Let's say we create 4 items. So graduate, undergraduate, and we say 12 plus. We say 10th plus. Let's look at how it looks now. So here we get an option down below. So here you can choose undergraduate, graduate, 10 plus, 12 plus. So now we have so far talked about different options of creating the form. Let's see how user can submit the form. So to submit the form, we have 2 options for the user. So we can say again, input, and then you get options like input type, submit. And if we say here's submit, let's say I want to show the user this on this button, a submit form, it will give me option as a button with submit form. See down below. But now I want to give a break line after this. So I say BR. So now I can see the submit form. What happens if I click on this submit form? Let's say I say Raman with age of 21 and email sabc@xyz.com, mail eligible, and then I say, yes, let's choose anything, whatever, I can choose a date for now, and password, some qualification. As soon as I click submit, you see this data is going to the server, any backend. And these are the names, name field that we have given. With this, you can, in the backend, as soon as you call this one, st name, you will get Raman. If you sth, you will get 21. St email, you will get abc xyz. Similarly, you can get all the values in your backend. So far, good. So now let's say I want to also reset this form. So we have another button called input, and then you can put a colon here. It's a shortcut, but you can go with the traditional approach. Just type reset, and then value, you can say reset form. So as soon as I do this, let's say if I choose these values, and then I say male, age, and then select something here, and then I say, as soon as I click reset, you will see all these values will be reset. See, so that's the advantage of this reset button. So far we have seen and created a nice form with which user can submit his registration. We can put this last one also inside a div. So it looks better now. Let's put them a little bit tabbed. So indentation wise, it's good. Sometimes you might have also seen here it's written enter your name. Let's say inside this, you want to show the user enter your name. So for that, you get another attribute called placeholder, and you can say here enter your name. See? And now it appears here. If you write your name, it disappears, otherwise it's there. Similarly, if you want to show enter your age, so put placeholder tag attribute here and say enter your age. See, now your form becomes more readable. But what if I click here and I want the cursor to come here automatically? Let's say I click on this student age and the cursor comes here. It's not happening now. So how can I achieve that? So for that, there's another tag called label tag. So as soon as I type label, then I can take this student name, put it here inside this, and then I have to give an ID to the input tag. I can give any ID, but I will use this ID also with the value as the name. So it's easy to understand. And then use this ID value here. As soon as you do that, and save and go, you see, if I click here, name, it fills here. But if I click on age, it doesn't do that. So let's do it for this as well. So I put label and remove this one, put it here, and then copy the name and give an ID to your input field. Paste the value and put the same in the for attribute of the label tag. You save and click here now. See, it populates. So you can do the same for all other form fields. So this was about the form tag and different input tags, which helps you to create forms in HTML. So you can play around with different types of input attributes. You can also Google, you will say input HTML, and then you go to W3 School. It is one of the nice or the best website to look for, and you can see a lot of input type. So you can play around with them and see how they behave. So for input like say telephone, so you can say tel, and it only takes the telephone number. So let's see what the input type reset does. Oh, we saw already it. Let's say the range. If I take this and maybe I want to try it somewhere, let's say here, what happens? So if as soon as I put an input type range, it gives me a nice scrollable range property. So you can similarly play around with different input types. So that is it. You can go ahead and practice further.